The Bard and the Plague is a well-known tale in Nordland. However, few can agree on whether or not it ever actually happened in the first place. Those that do believe may be rewarded with this tale. In the time of plagues and rumors of plague, on the night that Trolget was set aflame, a mass exodus followed. Among those leaving were 3 children: November Nordspawn, daughter of the bounty hunter; Jorn Nordspawn; Yvonne Nordspawn, a scholarly sort, with a young cousin to look after. Her name was Sunflower. Their quest was a simple one: reunite with Jorn. He was strong. He could protect them from the dangerous world. Maybe together they could buy a house in a nice little town, get some good honest work, and little Sunflower could be happy again. But until that day, the roads were rough and the weather cold, and the comforts of home were only a distant memory. As cold winds and beasts howled, and the nights and nights raged onward, November's sleep was troubled. She saw visions of the plague doctor that once held her village by the throat. She saw Rin the Bard, the heroic elf that saved her village from doom, and she saw her father, a strong and stoic man that had only seen her a few days each year. He would always tell her tales of his travels as a monster-slaying bounty hunter. He was alive. She knew so. And she knew that he would help her friends. Together, they could all live happily ever after. They had followed Jorn's trail ever eastward through the dark of the fairy woods and into the gloom of the Serpent's Bog. From one shanty town to another, the group trudged onward. The place that they had come to had no place on the map, and a name of little consequence. She had 5 copper pieces. A helping of meat cost 1 copper. She could buy everyone meat, but there was a traveling diviner, and her services cost 3 copper. November swallowed, her stomach hollow. She would just have to go hungry tonight. November had to move fast. She couldn't let the others know that she wasted their last coppers on some fortune teller. But if this mystic was true, then their search would be at an end. She entered the quaint caravan. The seer awaited. The diviner stretched forth her spindly hand slowly, eyes closed. November placed her last coppers into the outstretched hand. The diviner asked for a piece of the girl's hair, and an object that belonged to the person she searched for. Young Nordspawn handed over the locket of her father. The diviner opened her eyes. Luminous lights burst forth, and from her mouth the songs of the cosmos could be heard. And in that moment, everything was truth. All could be known, but the youth had only one question she could have answered, and so she asked where her father was, and she saw him. The vision was fast and fading, but her quest now had a destination: the city of Skalengrad. On the way back from the diviner, Yvonne asked if November had eaten yet. She said she was so hungry that she ate already. Yvonne offered her his food. November screamed inside her head. She couldn't. The boy was only skin and bone. He had to stay strong. Besides, her friends only suffer for her sake. It was all her fault. All her fault. She opened her backpack. It was like staring into a void of nothingness. Even the doll that little Sunflower had carried so far was sold, and for a meager sum that could hardly equal the memories that it held. Overall, the teen was glad that her friends had followed her this far. Norn could be a lonely place. The church and all of its zealous soldiers were not to be trusted, not after what happened at Trolget. So, no matter what they offered freely, November always refused. The locket was sold. The journey to the big city began. Yvonne is approached by mysterious individuals in this city. They need Nord blood. At first he thinks they are vampires. He is swiftly corrected. Werewolves. Both their needs are simple. He needs strength to protect his girls, and they need a loyal, unquestioning soldier. In the time after the Great Fair War, there was a hidden faction of human extremists. They called upon the powers of the werewolf, and used these powers to keep humans at the height of political power. They had many agents, and they were well compensated. Yvonne was finally able to buy things for his little girl, the one bright moon in his starless sky. The group took a room at the inn and rested for a while. During these days of mapping out the city and searching for Jorn, November hadn't noticed Yvonne sneaking out at night, and on the off chance he stayed and slept, he only had violent nightmares. Yvonne had kept the truth from November because he did not want her to worry. She saw him as a brother, but he wished he could be more. November continues to search for her father. She hears of someone matching her description, but they are in the plague quarter. She was told that this quarantine quarter in the city would have all sorts of wanderers. Plagues. Humanity always has some sort of illness, whether it be real or imagined by the depraved. These illnesses controlled the flow of life and progress in the time of plagues. People like November's mother were such that they would worship this evil as a means to escape from reality and the work within it. November had always loved fairy tales, but she was not afraid to face the truths of life. November snuck into the foreboding plague quarter, and here she meets an unexpected and familiar face. 'Twas none other than Rin, the bard. He too had been wandering, searching for a better place. November had loved him ever since hearing his songs of sorrow and hope. She told him all of this as she embraced him. He too admitted that he had some similar feelings. Ironically, in Rin's wandering, he had caught one of the many plagues in circulation, a particularly cruel strain of evil that was very dangerous to fair folk, the handiwork of the shadow government. He wasn't contagious, oddly, but coming here spelled certain doom for the girl. This place was saturated with death, but the rewards of this perilous descent were not over yet. The father was here, still proud, though ill. He embraced his daughter, the only human he had ever loved. He also, as fathers must do, made sure to tell November that he was proud that she and Rin the Bard had chosen each other. And after a stoic bear hug and nod, he announced his plans to escape from the quarantine area. He had heard tale from some of the sick refugees. There was a mountain just beyond these stone walls, and a spring. Its waters could heal all ailment. While the three planned an escape from the quarantine zone, November wondered why wolves could be heard from within the walls, and if Yvonne and Sunflower were all right. And then, like divine inspiration, and before any more planning could be done, a silvery werewolf burst through the city, slaughtering all non-humans that stood in its path. November held tight to Rin, fearing that this would be the end. Fear struck twice as the Nordling realized that this was no mere monster. This was Yvonne. She knew so in her heart. The guards attacked Yvonne the wolf, and he fell to the ground before he could escape. November rushed through the crowd to meet him. She cradled his dying body in her arms. He tried to explain, but his blood was spent. Without words, all was made known. He only wanted to protect what was most dear to him, his family. He was willing to sacrifice his sanity, his body, and his own life, but he lied. He should never have lied. He was able to feel one final embrace as the light ebbed from his mortal vessel, and November said, "Godspeed, Yvonne. We shall meet again in the next life." Jorn, Rin, Sunflower, and November Nordspawn left the city quickly, before question, luck, or law could confound them. The mountain awaited. Exiting the city was only the first step in a longer quest. They made their way to a trading caravan, and traded what they could for gear to pass through the cold of the mountain. The cold was enough to kill the heartiest Nord. The wind would knock the stoutest dwarf off his feet, and the climb would be insurmountable, even to an orc. But, by some miracle, they made it. Some have speculated that Jeremy, Goblin Scholar, or the Great Nature Spawn aided in their quest. Others will say that the power of true love guarded their step. The magic well was there, as prophesied. It did cure all ailment immediately, and the weather began to clear, and the hike back down was much easier. The sun had now shone brighter after this trial. The world had scarcely changed, but their mood had improved. No task was impossible, no sickness too great. They found a better place, and indeed, I believe, that they lived happily ever after. The end.